G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video, and welcome back to the Manufacturers Series, or the Manufacturers Cup, as part of the GT World Series here in Gran Turismo 7 today. This particular round we are watching today is round number 2 of a 3-round championship that sort of begun the year in the GT World Series for 2023. It was the 2022 to 2023 Exhibition Series, and this is round 2 of 3. I was still out of town for round 1, and round number 3 has been and gone. Round number 3 was actually at Autopolis, which I was not interested in whatsoever. But this here, round number 2, was Group 4 at Road Atlanta. It's also going to be our first look, or our first real look at Road Atlanta today, as we begin slot number 1. You can probably tell by the title, this is going to be a fairly strenuous episode today, but we'll see if we can scrape something together by the end of it. But this is Road Atlanta. It's a relatively new track in Gran Turismo 7. I think it's the most recently added one, in fact. The most recently added brand new track, at the very least. It's a bit strange, actually, so I won't dwell on this for too long, but the corner numbering at this track, man, is just absolutely insane. So half the corners in the S's at the opening lap don't even count, and then the chicane counts as one corner, and the 2 little kinks on the back straight count as corners too. So it's a bit strange. I count 14 turns, so you know, that's just how I do it. 14 turns, much like this. I'll show you on the screen. And this is how it's actually counted in real life. A bit strange, the disparity there, but I guess for you know, the accuracy, I'll go by the real life cornering today. A bit strange, but we go down the inside of this Porsche, puff of smoke from contact up ahead, and that's the end of the first lap. Something that we are going to just touch on briefly, because it is going to be a fairly quick-fire video today, just because we've got so much to get through. The strategy of the race today is a toss-up between a one-stop and a no-stop, but the no-stop requires a lot of fuel saving. So I'm driving the BMW M4, which is actually a pretty good fuel-saving car, so I really probably should be doing the no-stop, but I'm doing the one-stop today. But have a look at the chicane here at the end of the first lap, or the end of the second lap. Someone goes bowling, and someone's off the track. Actually, it's the end of the third lap. Hyperdrift makes contact with the TT and comes back and makes contact with me, sending me spinning around into the barrier down the hill. A little bit disappointing there, and we're going to be on the outfield just trying to recover, but we are going to be down into last, at risk of being disqualified. And Hyperdrift very aptly asked, "Who was that?" I believe Hyperdrift, mate, it was you, or it was you that contacted with me at least. Bit of contact there as we get swiped off the track. So if my eyes do not deceive me, Hyperdrift, you are going to be the one locked up today. No, all jokes, of course, that wasn't Hyperdrift's fault at all, but we do, rather disappointingly, finish that race near the back of the field, which is near where we qualified. I think we finished, 14th in that one, so absolutely nowhere, which means we have to move on to slot number 2. We qualified dead last, 16th out of 16th. I think somehow I was scraping into top split here today, which is a bit disappointing, because I can put in the qualifying lap of my life in top split and it is at the back of the grid, which is probably what happened here. The Honda not quite getting the turn 1 of his life, gets past. This Aston Martin falls out of the pack up ahead. We get past him up into 14th, so we get another position here against the Mitsubishi Lancer up into turn number 6. For some reason, I think it's turn number 9, but whatever. We get a similar move on the Nissan GTR. So all of these cars we're passing here today are going to be doing the no-stop race. So they're going to be fuel-saving quite a lot. I'm not fuel-saving. I am short-shifting, though, to perhaps decrease my refuel time once I do go in the pits. But we eventually get up into 10th. It is going to be up into 8th, and then a few more people pit, and we're up into 3rd by the time everybody ahead of us that is going to pit ends up pitting. So that's the benefit of the BMW coming into play, because I can short shift this BMW quite a lot. I can actually go an extra lap than a lot of other people. Twitchy and Andrew, the distinct duo, pit in from the lead, and we're going to just put in a little bit under half a tank of fuel to get us to the end of the race. We come out of the pits in 12th position, up behind Hainsey driving that Mercedes SLS, the Mercedes Group 4 car, which I believe isn't the best car of choice, but at the end of the day, Hainsey actually completely drove away, and I really was not able to get anything done. We ended up finishing that one just in 12th there as we ran out of fuel towards the line, and Jeesh only finished 1,000th of a second behind me. So it just goes to show you really have to perfect that fuel use there. We finished that one in 12th, up 4 spots for that one. But still not good enough. Slot number 3 now. We qualify in 12th for this one today, and it was a bit of a similar story. We worked our way up to 9th. I decided to pit in a little bit earlier this time, the end of lap 9, because I didn't want to get held up by those 2 cars that were just ahead of me there. We come out of the pits in 14th position. Geesh just 1 second behind. By the end of the race, though, we really weren't able to climb up the field too much. We finish in 11th. Geesh still managing to stick just behind me there, so only up 1 spot there. Clean race though, which is always nice. We move on to slot number 4 now, so we're getting through the day here. This is another bit of a strange thing with this particular exhibition series, is that there are just so many slots in these ones. They're obviously testing something, but there was 8 slots for the Manufacturers' Cup and 10 slots for the Nations' Cup. I didn't participate in the Nations' Cup. It's just the Manufacturers' round is all I had time for early in the year. We get 2 spots at the beginning of this race, or at the end of the first lap at the beginning of this race, and then it's a little bit of a skirmish at the final chicane here. Turn 10 and turn 10. For some reason, 10A and 10B, I guess. But we get past those couple of cars. We get past a Nissan on the outside. Geesh gets a little crossed up at the final turn. We manage to get up the inside of him, up towards turn 1 here. Let's see if we can get this move done and make sure we don't run him out of road. He tries to fight it around the outside, but we just leave him space. So that's past Geesh, past another car on the left, and then another car recovering. So what's that? Like 6 positions, 5-6 positions gained there. And we find ourselves up in 7th, pretty decent up behind Meta 7 and Cavallino. So pretty good spot here at the moment. It's been a fairly fruitful opening of this race here today. Let's make sure we don't run wide out of turn number 5, or if it was me counting it, it'd be turn number 8. So that's pretty good. Up in the slipstream of Meta 7, couple of laps later. Set some consistent 125s, which is always nice, and we blew at that sector at the exit of turn number 5 as well. Cavallino's got himself a half-second penalty there, so he's going to serve that at the 1 set of penalty gates at this track, which is a little bit, I was going to say a little bit over halfway down the straight, but about halfway down the straight. Just inhibits his pace a little bit. That's going to allow Meta 7 to hopefully stretch his legs a little bit. We get up the inside of Cavallino into turn number 10. He's going to fight it. We sweep around the outside of turn number 10, and we manage to get that position done. Turns number 11 and 12 if I was counting it. But we get ahead of Cavallino here. He's fairly close through the final turn number 12 or turn number 14 if I was counting it. He's going to be in the slipstream. I'm going to defend to the inside here because I wanted an opportunity. He gives me a little bump there, and it sends me a little bit wide. And because I'm trying to slow up again, he gives me a second bump. So that first one just gave me a bit too much speed, so I had to brake a little bit more in the mid part of the corner. Lost all my apex speed, and then he ran into the back of me, and that was me off the track into the barrier. And we come back on the track, but immediately we're in the way of people that are in their race, and really not the best rejoin by me, but I just come off the track there. I didn't want to give myself dirty tyres again, but I just had to go off the track. Let's have a look at that incident. I was obviously pretty annoyed about it. I defended the inside. He gives me a bump there, so I have to brake quite a bit, and then he's off the brakes, bumps me again, and then I'm off the track. So, look, it probably wasn't on purpose, but rather frustrating still. First bump there, second bump there, and that's enough to send me off the track into the barrier. Bang. I suppose it's actually a little bit funny, that particular clip, me sliding off the track there. But this is from my perspective here, so this is exactly how I felt at the time. We're just about to defend here, so we defend there. He comes across, gives me one bump, gives me a bit too much speed right before the braking zone. I have to slow up. He gives me the second bump, and that is that at the end of the day. A bit frustrating because that ruined slot number 4 for me today. So by the time we got to the back of the grid and managed to finish that race in 14th, it was really no good. I did call him a plonker though, so I shouldn't have done that. Cavallino's actually a really fast driver and he deserves respect, but I was obviously feeling pretty annoyed, especially given I just had 4 rather disappointing slots. Let's move into slot number 5 now, so getting on a bit here, trying to scrape together something good, but really it was my qualifying that was proving to be a bit problematic here today, because I was qualifying near the back and on the one-stop strategy, which means I spent all my first stint fighting through the pack, which by the end of on this particular slot, I actually managed to find myself up in second. Pretty good for the first stage of the race. Pretty consistent lap times there too, 25s and a 26 in there, a couple of 26s, so pretty good at the opening of this race. So this one's going fairly well, but this is this sector here, so all these corners, this corner here, this corner here, and this right-hander here, for some reason don't count, even though I would count it. I run wide out of this corner here, just about avoiding a penalty, I think. Did we keep it on that initial curb that's on the direct edge of the track? We didn't. We managed to slide a little bit too far beyond the start of that curb there, get ourselves a half-second penalty. We were able to stick in second for the majority of that race, as I assume these two Lamborghinis are going to be doing the no-stop strategy. I decide to pit in here. Well, I don't decide. I'm forced to pit in here because I've only got 0.4 laps of fuel remaining. I'm coming out of the pits in 12th, 21 seconds. Oh, actually, the gap's coming down. I was going to say 21 seconds off the back of the field, but that gap's coming down. It's about 8 seconds off the back of the field. Hainsey sends it down the inside of the Nissan GTR at turn number 7 or turn number 10 if I was counting it, and we get the slipstream off the back of the Mercedes SLS. So we're up into 11th because we were able to capitalise on that incident with the Nissan GTR. Conzio pits in the Suzuki Swift, and Hainsey sends it up the inside of the Alfa Romeo 155, and that just inhibits both of their paces just a little bit, especially so with the Alfa Romeo, because they look definitely on the back foot here as we're catching through this opening sector of the circuit through turn number, it hasn't got a turn number, it'd be turn number 5 if I was counting it, but we just have to make sure we don't run into the back of the Alfa Romeo and they run wide, because that'll probably give me a penalty. We're just going to stick into the slipstream, use the the advantage that we have by the fact we're not fuel saving, send it down the inside of turn number 6 or turn number 9 if I was counting it, and make sure they're not able to get back up the inside of turn number 7 or turn number 10 if I was counting it, and as we exit out onto the back straight. Somehow this little left-hander is counted, and then the one after is counted as well. That's all we were able to manage. We managed to finish that one in 9th, which is actually the first time I was able to finish in the top 10 tonight. That's fantastic. So we'll see if that was worth any considerate number of points there. 233 for that particular result there, which actually, to be fair, is not awful. I normally like to start, getting into the 240s, 250 for me to consider banking a result. So 233, I was like, oh no, I couldn't go again. But I didn't follow it up very well because I qualified last for slot number 6 here. Let's see what we're able to do here. I think Awesome gets a pretty poor start in that Suzuki Swift. I think that Suzuki Swift actually is the lowest horsepower car in group number 4. It's obviously got to be pretty good through the corners to be able to get away with that very, very poor horsepower figure. We managed to get up into 3rd by the time we enter the pit lane here today at the end of lap number 11. Once again, there's a car ahead of me that is going to be pitting as well. By the time we exit the pits, Awesome's done a lovely undercut on me here, or they've stayed out and have continued to fuel save, so we'll see if we're able to get that position done. Oh, we are. By the time we get to turn 1 of lap number 13, our first flying lap since the pit stop, straight up the inside of Awesome, so perhaps they're no-stopping, or they're really, really slow today, but that's okay. We're really, really slow too. We're just really struggling with this strategy, and looking back on it, I perhaps should have really tried to do the no-stop. But let's get through this final lap here. We've got one more lap to go, and we're looking at 9th position again. So that'd be okay if we're able to follow up a 9th position with a 9th position. Up the inside of Takuan, or Takuma. Is that Takuma or Takuan? I'm not too sure. It might be Takuan on the second account, but we'll just call them Takuma, because that is the account they're using today. Takuma in the Ferrari up the inside. They're obviously fuel saving. The Mazda, what's it called? The Mazda Tenza, that's it. Oh dear, looks like we cut turn 3 quite a bit. But somehow we managed to get away with a penalty there. There was 1 second penalties being dished out for cutting that curb at turn 3. But somehow we managed to avoid it there. I definitely felt as though we cut it, but I guess we're not going to go back and ask the stewards to dish out a penalty for me. But looking up the inside of the Atenza there, I decided to give them a bump on this occasion and try and get the move into the final chicane, because what I felt would happen if I went for the move there, it would compromise me into this corner, which would give me a poor run out onto the back straight, which would just allow that Atenza to get really good traction and slipstream back past me. There's something to note with that Atenza as well, as it's a four-wheel drive car, which are notably extremely OP in Group 4 at the moment. A lot of us, the community, is expecting a rather large Group 4 BOP update to try and level the cars back out, because it's apparent that the cars are not very equal at the moment. We send it from an age back at the final chicane. We get a bump and run a bit wide through turn 10 part 2, and the two cars just send it up the inside. Takuma's managed to stay pretty close as well as he gets up the inside of the final turn. But let's see, I think that Atenza just grabs the 9th spot there, but Takuma pounces at the last moment and almost gets two positions pretty much at the final corner there. But as for me, I have to just fall back into 11th position for 198 points. In fact, if I'd even taken 9th position there, it would only be 226, which is less than what I had previously got, so still would have been disappointing. Next slot, what are we up to? Slot number 7? I don't even know at this point. Slot number 6, slot number 7, something like that. At the start of this race, we managed to fight up the field a little bit. We catch up to 5th position here, so we find ourselves in 6th by the end of our opening stint here, which is pretty good. Up the inside of Andrew, that Mustang goes. But this is a little bit early for our pit stop, but I decide I don't want to actually interrupt these two in their race here. I don't want to lose time fighting these two people, because they were both doing no-stop races, or Andrew definitely was doing a no-stop race. So I decide to pit in pretty early here, and that means I do come out behind some people that are still yet to pit, from behind me. So we do find ourselves in 14th. The first car that does so is, what's that name? Benayacio, driving the Mitsubishi Lancer. So they pit in. The yellow flag's out. We get past the Mazda Atenza now, so we're up 2 spots into 12th, so that's not too bad. We catch up to these two Suzuki Swifts with Awesome about to serve the penalty. He's got the right indicator on, and I wasn't sure if that meant he was going to go right or whether that meant he wanted me to go right, but he kind of committed to the left, so I went right. Get the slipstream of Salvage there. We're going absolutely savage on Salvage there. Down the inside before the braking zone on that Suzuki Swift, which is notably very bad in a straight line there. And we managed to get another 2 spots up into 10th. We've only got 2 laps to go, and with a 3-second gap to Momoko, wasn't enough as they extended that gap out to 4 seconds, and we managed to finish 10th again. So inside the top 10, I guess. Could be worse, but once again, we are just struggling on this one-stop strategy. So I did commit to the one-stop for all of the races, but I am looking back on it now, and I was like, man, I really should have just tried that no-stop, because I'm in the BMW, which is the best fuel-saving car. It was just my lack of practice and I guess lack of confidence in the fuel-saving strategy that turned me away from it, but I really probably should have practiced it and had a go at it throughout the night, because it was evident I was getting nowhere. Let's have a look at a qualifying lap. This is slot number 8, which is the final one, and was actually the best qualifying lap I put in. So we get through turn 1 okay, using a bit of grass, and you'll see as we head through all of these S's, exactly why the qualifying turned out to be so difficult. It didn't really click with me earlier in the night why I was so bad in qualifying, but as the night went on and as I looked at some of the time trial replays, people were using grass lines through the opening sector, and especially through that left-hander out onto this straight here. People were using the grass on the entry, and it was so easy for the car to not take to the grass so well and spin out. So it was a really big risk to take, and a lot of people were taking that risk in qualifying, and that is another disadvantage of qualifying, or being put here, placed here, lumped here, shipped off here into top split, where I don't really belong when it's the Asia Oceania. So a lot of people were confident in taking that grass line. I wasn't really. I just wanted to jump in and try and have a good race, which is what Gran Turismo is all about, but I just wasn't able to do it today. I've got this Lamborghini flashing me as we finish this qualifying lap, although I am blue and I'm entitled to finish my lap. He should have left a bit more space for himself, but let's head through this final chicane, up over the rise, up over the crest as we plunge down to the final turn. You can see that change in tarmac colour just there where the car bodywork had been digging into the ground, where they've done a bit of a resurface there. 125.1, the best qualifying of the night. We try and take turn 1, try to go pretty much kamikaze into turn 1, end up cutting or getting a penalty for running a bit wide on the entry, and we have contact with the Lamborghini. So I didn't impact the Lamborghini's lap there, and I do apologise for that. But I was entitled to finish that lap. Even though he's flashing, I'm like, no, I'm entitled to be where I am. Even though that was our best qualifying time of the night, it was not our best qualifying position of the night, which goes to show just how competitive this top split is. We managed to start this one in 12th. Twitchy dives up the inside at turn 1. He's driving the V8 Vantage in the Group 4 here. We get past 2 cars there. Around the outside of this Lancer, I'm definitely there. A bit of contact on the way through, and he just fights back. A little bit of a wriggle on as we exited that turn. We're side by side. I've got the inside for this corner though. I just have to come out of the throttle to make sure I don't run wide because of that narrow line. We managed to get up into 9th in the first sector of this race here. Oh dear, we get a bit of a poor exit there. I think my brake was actually dragging, which is another thing going wrong in my sim racing life at the moment. I've got to get a new wheel, really, is what I've got to do, but it's just finding the money, really, because all the wheels are so expensive these days, and I don't know if I want to drop, you know, $500-600 and another G29, but I may be forced to, really, because of this pedal situation. It's also happening with the throttle, so the throttle and the brake are also playing up. But anyway, let's put the book of excuses away and try and defend this position from the Lancer, who's coming back at me. I haven't had a very good couple of corners there, and ideally on my one-stop strategy I'd really like to be up in that group of cars ahead where Twitchy is making moves. He's up the inside of the Subaru as I'm on the inside. Oh dear, he fights back and sends me a bit wide. I'm going to lose a further position here as Buta heads back down the inside my BMW compatriot there. Although, what are they? They're a Japanese driver. But anyway, we're going to put a return move on the BMW at this corner here, turn number 6. I had to look down there because I wanted to say turn number 9. We get past them, we catch up to the Subaru here. We just catch up to the back of them there, not really ideal. We do lose a little bit of time, but that Subaru runs quite wide out of there. That could potentially be a penalty. There's almost a double curb there, so there's the initial curb and then a line and then the flat curb. You have to stay on that initial curb, and it looked like he ran wide, but he managed to avoid a penalty there, or maybe he did get a penalty and I didn't quite see it. But nonetheless, he makes a hash of turn 6, and we managed to get up the inside at the final turn, and he's not able to mount a return move on that one. We managed to catch up to him, so it's obvious they were probably doing the one-stop strategy and not looking to be aggressive and re-overtake me. Likewise with Servia in the Alfa Romeo 155. Likewise with Meta 7 on his alternate account, driving the Subaru now. So he was in the Toyota in a previous slot on his main account, but on his second account he's chosen Subaru. We're going to send it down the inside, not hanging around here, but it was a little bit ambitious of me, I think, because I made some contact on the way through, and then I decided to make an absolute cork of this turn, and he manages to just straight undercut me. That Subaru, or Meta at least, was committing to the no stop, so the fact that I'm kind of stuck engaged in a battle with him, it's not good for my strategy. So I send it down the inside again from a long way back. I do get it stopped, to be fair, and he doesn't really fight it, so I manage to get that position done there. I get a pretty good exit here. By the time we finish sector number 1 here, we are over a second ahead of him, so it just confirms that Meta 7's doing that no stop because he's really, really slow through the course of the, in terms of lap time, I guess, at least. But we've run wide, get ourselves a half-second penalty immediately after overtaking Meta 7, so not ideal because we're going to have to serve this penalty on the back straight and give Meta 7 another look in here. We are going to try and defend this position because it's not really in the best interest of my strategy to just hang in behind Meta 7 for a while. I have to be aggressive here because I'm doing the one stop. So I send it up the inside here, and I know I'm compromising Meta's race, and he's probably quite frustrated about it, but there's not too much I can do. I just have to run my own race, which is the one stop, which is the aggressive strategy, which means I'm not hanging around because all that would happen is I would lose time. But ultimately, by the end of that first stint, by the end of lap number 9, I come into the pit lane and I'm rather dissatisfied because it hasn't been a very clean opening stint there, which is really what I need. I really need consistent 25s in that opening stint, and really if I'm looking to do a really efficient one stop and try and contend for maybe the top 5, I probably need to be doing 24s some of the time. But I wasn't able to do that today. My opening stint was a couple of 25s and then 26s and 27s. My final stint was a bit better, but I only managed to climb back up into 11th position by the end of that one today through really a not very clean opening stint there, and I can really only put that down to frustration and having played the game for 8 hours at this point, trying to scrape something together at this Road Atlanta round. But ultimately, by the end of slot 8, which is the final slot of the night, I only managed to bring home 207 points. So a really big disappointment, actually, and I wasn't even going to make the video, but I was like, I've got to make a video. I haven't made a video since the end of last year, so you guys are definitely due for one, and I do want to push for 500 subs because I got a few plans I want to do surrounding that. But this race today, just so disappointing, just trying to put that effort in for 8 slots, 8 hours of racing, and I got absolutely nowhere. couple of factors: poor qualifying, little practice. I was probably doing the wrong strategy for the car I'd chosen. I think the BMW is definitely capable of putting in a fairly quick zero-stop race. I just didn't practice it. I just didn't get the technique in place for the zero stop, because you have to fiddle with your fuel maps and short shift it everywhere, and you got to make sure you get your fuel map up towards the end of the straight, but while you complete the turn, you got to get it back down to fuel map 1 for the exit of the turn, and it does require a lot of practice, and I just didn't have that practice there today. I really should have put in the effort and try and made that zero stop work, but I knew coming into the round it had shown that it was a toss-up between a one-stop and a no-stop, so I was like, if I just put in a good one-stop, I'll be equal on the zero-stoppers, but obviously wasn't the case. Coupled with the poor qualifying, I was at the back of the grid all night. It really wasn't a fun night of racing, so perhaps understandable why I didn't want to make this video initially, but there's something amusing about 8 slots of turmoil, or hopefully something amusing to you viewers about 8 slots of turmoil for me. Not too amusing to me personally, but I think we managed to scrape something at least watchable there for you today. So if it was, do hit that like button and do subscribe if you'd like to see more videos and streams from me. Do leave a comment as well, as questions, comments and constructive criticism, as always, very much appreciated. That's going to be the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.